Thursday, and my favorite part of my Thursday, it's time to throw it back with Lori Kent with the Localoo podcast.
Woohoo!
Yes,
Thanks for having me.
I said, I wish it was Friday, and then I walked in and I saw Lori, and I'm like, I'm glad it's Thursday actually, because
we have some history.
We have some history.
Yeah, let's dive into some history,
Yes.
and then we can go right to Friday.
And then let's just skip ahead to
let's
Friday,
just
skip
zoom,
the remote.
fast forward this day.
Please, yes.
Please and thank you.
Well, let's go back in history first of all. Tell us about what we're talking about.
So we're gonna head to Rowena, South Dakota, which is just east of South Dakota. It's east of Sioux Falls, and it is in South Dakota. It's between Brandon, South Dakota, and then Larchwood, Iowa.
Okay.
And so it's this small little town. They have a beautiful historical marker. So I wanted to talk about what the historical marker tells us about their history. So it tells us in July of 1888, Thomas Ryan from Dubuque, Iowa, comes to Dakota Territory, and he wants to buy some land. So he buys some land from the Split Rock Township, and he ends up platting 43 blocks, and he names each block after a type of stone. He then names the town Rowena for the heroine in the book Ivanhoe, which I kind of love that part of the story because there's so many of these towns and cities and roads and rivers that are named for like the people.
Yeah.
Like he could have named it Ryanville or Thomasville or whatever. And so instead he names it for a literary character. So kind of love that guy.
Yes.
I love that he obviously had some fun hobbies and he's kind of sharing that with us. So I think that's cool. Rowena itself, it ends up being a quarry town. So it does have kind of a boom industry going on because at the time we have Wallace Dow, the prairie architect, and he is doing these huge buildings. I always gotta say the Old Courthouse Museum because that is a showstopper and that is all Sioux Quartzsite. So I think that's a really great example of how much Sioux Quartzsite was like so in at the time. And so he, Thomas Ryan, he talks to some of the farmers and he goes ahead and leases some of their land to do quarries. From that, it is successful. He builds a stone crusher. It's going to be the first one in Dakota Territory. So he is really making sure that he is an important part of the quarrying industry, which means this town's going to do well. They're going to do good. So they actually get the Illinois Central coming through and making a stop, which is a big deal because that goes right to Chicago, which means they're going to get a stockyards because people are going to want to have their animals right there and they can get right on the train, go right to Chicago. This is a money maker. They're going to have a hotel, a saloon. They're going to have tons of people. This is like a little boom town. So like what happens to Rowena? Because now it is just a town that you slow down to drive through. So what kind of happened is, the Depression comes along. That took a lot of towns out of the mix. And then also this is a town literally built on the business of Sioux Quartzsite and quarrying that Sioux Quartzsite. And what's interesting about Sioux Quartzsite, it's not Sioux Falls Quartzsite. Like this went everywhere. Like there's Sioux Quartzsite in Omaha and Kansas City and Chicago. Like these big cities have roads that are paved with Sioux Quartzsite, buildings that are made of Sioux Quartzsite. But it's expensive. You have to pay these men to quarry it. You have to pay for the blocks to get dressed. You have to pay to transfer them. And if you ask me, it kind of sounds like building a pyramid in Egypt. These are huge, heavy pieces of stone. Have you ever picked up a piece at Falls Park, man?
No.
It's heavy.
Yeah,
it is heavy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so it is a big job, and that's just money, money, money.
Yes.
And there were cheaper alternatives. Also, building styles change. Even though I might love that classic style, it was going out of style. And so that's how Rowena kind of just becomes the sleepy little town that we now drive through, which I think is interesting. And now this historical marker specifically, if you got to see it during the package, like it used to really need some love. But this summer, Jim Carlson from the Minnehaha County Historical Society hand painted this.
Wow.
He completely refinished it by hand
Wow.
on the side of the highway, completely redid this. And so it is such a beautiful restored historical marker that I hope now more people will stop and read that history.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely go check that out because that sounds so cool.
It is, yeah. And there is a tiny little secret about, well, I don't know about secret, but maybe a tiny little part of Rowena's history that we're going to circle back to next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love the little teases to next week. Already looking forward to next Thursday.
Yes.
But we'll get to Friday first, right?
Heck yeah, we need that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here,
Yeah, thank
Lori.
you.
And stick around. We have more after the break.